Hello and welcome to the big picture. The avalanche which buried 124 soldiers of the Pakistani army and 11 civilians in the Siachen glacier about 2 weeks back has kicked up a major debate in both countries about the futility of the two countries maintaining a high level of military presence in the region. Significantly, the statement of the Pakistani Army Chief Ashfaq Parvez Kayani 2 days back that it's high time that the conflict is resolved has given a new twist to the debate. Never before has a Pakistani Army Chief so openly advocated demilitarization of the Siachen region. So does it mean that the two countries will work out a solution so that the enormous cost the two countries have been incurring over the last 3 decades will end? Can these huge funds be utilized for better purposes in both the countries? Will the security experts and defense analysts, and more significantly, the politicians on both sides allow it to happen? Siachen literally means a land of abundant roses. But will the uninhabited land see the soldiers of the two armies exchange roses instead of gunfire? Today we'll be looking at all this and asking the question, has the time come to vacate Siachen and use those funds for better purposes? To discuss this, I have with me here today an interesting panel of guests, Lt.Gen.Raj Kadyan, retired Deputy Chief of Army Staff, Bharat Verma, Defense Analyst and Editor of the Indian Defense Review, R.Prasannan, Chief of Bureau, The Week magazine, and someone who keeps a close watch on the armed forces and the defense sector, and Biraj Patnaik, who has nothing to do with the defense or army, but is in fact the advisor of the Supreme Court Commission on Right to Food. Welcome to all of you. Let me first go to General Kadyan. General Kadyan, how Mr. Kayani's statement 2 days back, is it something that we need to take serious note of?
Girish, as a matter of principle, any peace overture made by an estranged neighbor should be welcome. But when dealing with international relations, and particularly when dealing with Pakistan, who have a very dismal record of saying something and doing something quite different, one has to be more pragmatic than principled. I mean, why did Kayani make this statement?
Exactly. Why did
Is it a change of heart or just change of circumstances? You see, if you take their history.
This 127 soldiers.
Yeah, 138 total human lives lost, which is a sad loss for anybody.
You think
whenever they are in a weaker position.
No, you think that is the trigger, or is there a larger,
if you take Kayani himself, he has been a hardliner on Kashmir.
Right.
He has been head of the ISI supporting all this terrorism.
Absolutely.
Even this time when he is talked about why after all Siachen is part of J&K. Why only Siachen is talking about demilitarization? And if he is so sincere about demilitarization, why don't they pull back? Indian Army is not going to walk into Skardu. Let me tell you, Girish, that it is the highest battle zone in the world.
Absolutely.
It is extracting a very heavy cost, on both countries, both in terms of finances as well as human lives.
Absolutely.
In fact, 70% casualties statistically have been because of harsh climate.
Right.
Maybe Pakistan has to accept we are a bigger country, we are a richer country, we have more resilience, but Pakistan seems to have reached the limit of tolerating these difficulties.
Right.
And he made this statement in Skardu, so maybe that he was more emotional at that stage because he's lost some. He has to motivate them to some extent.
Right.
But they have to back it up by certain actions on the ground. Our biggest bane today is terrorism.
Right.
He has not even mentioned a word about terrorism.
Okay, I mean, maybe that was not the occasion for him to talk of terrorism, but coming to you, Mr. Verma, how critical is Siachen in terms of the strategic importance for India to continue to have our forces in Siachen?
Before I answer that, let me just expand what the General said. Why he has said what he has said.
Right.
There is a change of environment. The people killed are from the Northern Light Infantry, most of the people. Most of them are Shias from Gilgit-Baltistan. There is a reason, and that area now is very angry that why only our soldiers are there on Siachen from the Pakistan side, and because of that, is one more reason why, because
So
besides,
there's really wheels within wheels there.
oh yes, and also there's an environment in Pakistan where the society, civil society is not willing to allow army a free a check to run berserk, because nothing is working inside Pakistan.
So,
So there are a lot of areas that the general is on a back foot in a lot of ways.
Actually, in general terms, the entire army seems to be on the back foot in Pakistan.
Yes. So that environment is changed to a large extent. That's why he said. Now, the fact is, why doesn't he first stop export of fake currency, which his ISI is manufacturing under his guidance to India? Why does he not stop, dismantle 42 terrorist camps which are ready to infiltrate into Kashmir Valley? Why he does not stop other?
I think let's not
because
go into
you
those
saw-
issues.
no.
We'll come back to
And
those
therefore,
issues.
to stay on Siachen-
But no, my original question to you was that how strategically important is it for India to remain in Siachen, for the Indian army forces to be?
Yeah, let's even forget the strategic part, how important it is. First is, it's a pressure point now for Pakistan, because Pakistan has no money, Pakistan is dysfunctional, and Pakistan was not willing to stop your export of terrorism, whether in currency or manpower. Therefore, you have to be there to ensure that this structure under pressure is dismantled. That is first point in the strategic importance, because you are on upper heights, you can afford it better than Pakistan, and whole lot of.
But it also means higher costs.
Also, you are looking into very strategic roads which Pakistan has ceded areas to
China.
And you must revisit your policy, because the Shias that are there in Gilgit-Baltistan, they are connected to your Kashmir, and they are very angry. So you need to exploit that strategy for your furtherance.
Okay, let me come to Prasannan. Prasannan, Mr. Verma and Mr. Raj Kadyan, both of them seem to be indicating that strategically and in political terms also, Pakistan seems to be in a position now where they are trying to concede. But should we also take that position? Should we also try to work out some kind of a solution? Is this the time to sit and discuss Siachen?
I would say yes, any time is the right time to discuss an issue when there is a dispute, agreed. But at the same time, there is no urgency to discuss Siachen. I mean, there are more pressing problems, as they were also saying. There are Kashmir issue, there are several other issues. And then the other issue is, I mean, what is so pressing about Siachen?
So you are both those two, the other two also said. So you are also saying that we cannot see Siachen in isolation. We have to look at all the other issues involved.
We cannot see Siachen in isolation. Apart from that, there are no other issues. I mean, what is the problem with Siachen? The two armies are, looking at each other eyeball to eyeball, agreed. But there is no shooting going on there.
No,
we
but
have
the
had
cost,
a ceasefire.
you're talking of the cost.
We are looking at the cost. What is the cost? 10 crore a day. It is not a big amount as far as in our defense budget is concerned, nor is it a big amount for Pakistan. Secondly, the whole
you are
propaganda,
saying it's 10 crores a day. One of the estimates is 5 crores. If you're saying 10 crores, then that means about 4,000 crores a year.
I'm talking of the two armies together.
Two armies together. Okay.
The problem is, I mean, a lot of propaganda is today being made that the weather kills more than the bullets. And first thing, the bullets don't kill anybody now, because for the last 10 years we have had absolute peace there. One or two strains.
When it is such, when the place is so peaceful, why have those many? India apparently has 7 battalions and they have 4 battalions. Why deploy such heavy forces there?
It is high ground. It is the high ground of India. It is high ground of this entire region. And no army in the last 2,000 years of military history has ever vacated high ground, unless you can have that kind of an assurance from the other side.
Right, General Kadyan, tell me.
No.
See, the costs involved. You yourself spoke about the human cost, as well as there is also another cost, the environmental cost, because half of the glacier has melted in these years that the two armies have been stationed there.
Yeah, about 28 meters per year as per the statistics.
Right.
Just to build on what Bharat had said, strategically there are 1 or 2 more reasons why it is important for us to sit there. One is this is on the eastern portion of the Karakoram range.
Right.
And this will also then link up Siachen with the northeastern portion of Nagaland. And there is no guarantee if the area is vacant, Pakistan will not encourage Chinese to come and sit there. Secondly, the approach to Leh, which is the hub of our entire infrastructure in Ladakh,
Right.
is easy from the northern side if those heights are not held. So that is as far as strategy is concerned. Now, why we are sitting there till 72, there was no troops there. Even the demarcation that was done, they went up to a point called NJ 9842, and then realizing that nobody will be able to sit on this height, they said from here the LC goes, or the line of control goes further north. It is Pakistanis who started sending their expeditions. Even the international expeditions that came there.
So the 1984
No,
incident
before
was-
1984.
The 1984 incident you are saying was provoked by Pakistan.
It was.
Okay.
There was every intention that they'll come and sit there. We had
Okay, let
intelligence
me get Biraj in. Biraj, you have nothing to do with all this, technicalities and all this security analysis of how important it is. The plain fact is that huge amount of money is being spent there. 2,000 crores. An approximate is that India spends about 2,000 crores a year on that, which it's about 5 crores a day. And Khayani himself is saying that these funds can be used for better purposes. And we are told that in the back channel diplomacy that there has been going on between the two countries, this is one of the issues where it had come to be resolved at certain points of time. So don't you think this kind of expenditure can be utilized for better
No,
purposes?
absolutely. I want to say two things here, Girish. I mean, firstly, I must say that I have the highest respect for the Jawans, including people from my own family, officers who've served in Siachen. And 3 of my extended family, my first cousins, are in the army. So I have the deepest respect for the Jawan who's dying a cold, anonymous death in Siachen, sent there by the political establishment. Now, when we talk about Pakistan and Pakistan's situation, let us not forget that we are not very far behind. And in fact, on most of our social indicators, either we are just ahead of Pakistan or behind Pakistan.
Right.
Even a country like Bangladesh today, and this will be news to many people, has overtaken us on every single indicator on be it infant mortality, be it child malnutrition, be it maternal, even female literacy.
Right.
That's one. Second, for all these delusional, the national delusional these ideas about India being a superpower, militarily or otherwise, the truth is that if you take out Africa, there are only 16 countries in the world which have a lower per capita income than India has. Just 16 countries. And if you look at Dresen's analysis,
And there will be some Burundi and
exactly, there are only 5 countries outside of Africa: Afghanistan, Bhutan, Pakistan, Papua New Guinea, and Yemen, which have a youth female literacy rate lower than that of India. So let's not get carried away. We are a very poor country. The Planning Commission itself has admitted, as you know, this huge national hallabulla,
about
that
28 rupees.
28 rupees a day is what 1/3 of the rural population.
Right.
And 32 rupees a day, 1/5 of the urban population of India is subsisting on. So firstly, the first point I want to make is that we are a very poor country. And, so let's be a little more modest in our ambitions, number one. Number two, when you say that, look, 3,000 crores or 2,000 crores that we are spending, what is it in comparison to our overall military spend, and why should we be bothered about? Let's look at what is that opportunity cost of that. 52% of Indians today are defecating in the open.
Right.
We don't have access to sanitation. In some urban centers, absence of private toilets is as high as 70%. Girish, do you know what is the budget of the Ministry of Rural Development for dealing with sanitation, which is the biggest problem in this country today, insofar because
which leads to all the health problems.
Yes, and it is, you will not believe it, but it is lower than what we are spending on just holding Siachen. And therefore, I think it is one thing to have, for the Indian middle class, to have an exaggerated sense of its own importance. And you saw that yesterday when the Agni missile was launched, the congratulatory mode and taking on China that all of us put to, we need to really look at it from that perspective.
Absolutely. We will continue this discussion. We need to go into a short break now. Please keep watching. We'll be back very soon. The discussion is getting to be more and more interesting. Welcome back. We are discussing Siachen in the context of Pakistan Army Chief Kayani's statement that there needs to be a solution on that, and asking the question, can the two armies vacate Siachen and use those funds for better purposes? Let me come back to you, General Kadyan. I was talking about the back channel diplomacy. In fact, General Musharraf more than once has said that at different points of time, and various other Pakistani people also, and some of the Indian politicians as well, army, that India and Pakistan was very close to coming to some kind of a solution as far as Siachen is concerned. And in the back channel diplomacy, which has been happening for several years now, the agreement more or less has been there that among both the Indians and Pakistanis that this is something which is avoidable, which is something which we can vacate. At least this amount of militarization can be avoided.
Musharraf also said in 2006 that Pakistani soil will no longer be used for terrorists.
Right.
Has he implemented that scheme? So these statements by politicians should not be quoted out of context. Well, any peace settlement will be welcome.
Right.
Let me assure you that the people who have actually fought wars, they understand the value of peace better.
Absolutely.
Bharat will agree with me.
Right.
Let me also take this point with Patnaik. I respect his views, whatever he's saying, all the statistics are correct. But when you come to national security, extending the same argument, we have nearly 500,000 troops in the valley. Then we should give up the valley, and I'm sure our child mortality will go down, and our poverty line everything will improve. But is that the way the nations behave? No. We have a territory, we have a responsibility to defend our territory.
General Kadyan, one of the arguments is that all these things have become some kind of a self-perpetuating missions. Nobody wants to give up now that there is a certain vested interest get involved, and peace becomes a casualty in all these matters.
No, I don't think so. Firstly, it is not the army that decides whether they should deploy.
It's not. I'm not talking only of the army.
I agree. It's a national decision.
Right.
If the government today, we are a democratic country. The army is totally under the control of the civilian elected government. If they order us tomorrow, army will pull back. Although they may not be happy about it. We were not happy in 65 when we were told to hand over Haji Pir. It was taken at a very heavy cost. But moment in Tashkent, the then Prime Minister agreed, we handed over. We can do the same for Siachen. But the country should realize that if we are again stabbed in the back by Pakistan like we were in Kargil, it will be much heavier cost for us to go and sit back there.
Mr. Verma, it's very clear from what you both have been holding, and also to some certain extent, Prasannan, that this is majorly because of that lack of trust, the trust deficit which exists between the two countries. I mean, nothing what the Pakistanis said seems to be something which India can take without a pinch of salt.
Somebody like Biraj, a friend I met, environmentalist, and he said, Indus Water Treaty is a role model. And he said, we must have a role model treaty on Siachen. I said, Indus Water Treaty, I'm sorry, is not role model. He said, what do you mean? I said, the water goes from India to Pakistan, therefore there is a treaty. But if the water was coming from Pakistan to India, there wouldn't have been any treaty, my friend. And he said, I never, this environment. No, what I'm trying to say is, the trust deficit, what you talked, is on the other side. We have given them equal opportunities every time. We have returned the land. But before that, I want to answer what Biraj has said. You put all the scandals that have happened in last 2 years, 3 years, put all the money stashed outside, and you have enough money to defend and to develop. But if you go to UP elections and see the condition of those prime constituencies of Amethi and Raebareli, 65 years they have not developed it.
That's a separate. That's
not separate.
Mr. Verma, that's a separate discussion.
So human mortality go up if the Babus start governing and governing properly. Not because the army is defending this country, so his 2,000 crore must be taken out.
My question, Prasannan, is that to certain extent these kind of missions become self-perpetuating. beyond a point, everybody develops vested interests, and to keep we all know how vested interests develop. But here is the time, because if you read the Pakistani media today or in the last few days, you would have never seen the kind of pressure which the Pakistani establishment is feeling now from the Pakistani media, saying that this is the time to go and work out a solution.
Yes.
There seems to be certain amount of sincerity now, at least if you read from the Pakistani media's point of view.
Yeah, I agree, Girish, but the problem is that, what is the problem in that case? The problem is that we need to have a solution, agreed. But where is the solution? The solution, we have proposed several times that, yes, the solution is there. The moment you recognize that the ridge lines are occupied by India and you certify that ridge line as occupied by India on the map, on the ground it is not possible. On the map, that is all one is asking. There is trust. India is willing to trust Pakistan, and I think Pakistani establishment was coming round to that. But on an emotional point of view, you cannot just go for a solution just because an avalanche happened. Unfortunately, it happened. Our heart goes with it. But there are other ways of building trust. For example,
all this back channel diplomacy which has been happening, where these issues have been discussed, how far has it reached there?
I don't think it has reached anywhere near that kind of a solution that we are.
What General Musharraf
in 1989, Benazir Bhutto and Rajiv Gandhi, we are told, were close to getting an agreement.
Yeah.
Later, Musharraf proposed several proposals. Why didn't they work out? It didn't work out, but because it was not feasible.
Was it because it was not feasible, or was it because of the lack of trust which still continues?
Lack of trust was always there. Lack of trust has always been there. But we can build trust. That's what I'm saying. Building trust is possible. But building trust we can do only when we recognize each other's position. Now, let them recognize that the ridge lines are occupied by us, and we are not asking them to say that this is ours, but this is the position on which India has been occupying. Just certify that. Then we can tell the world, and this was the line on which we were occupying, and if they reoccupy it day after tomorrow, we vacate tomorrow, day after tomorrow somebody else, let it not be Pakistan, let it be China, somebody reoccupies, we can tell the world that this was the ridge line occupied by us. We have a legitimacy there. So without getting it legitimized.
Let me add a small sentence in what he's saying. Once you certify, now it is up to each country to decide whether they want to walk out or they want to stay there. Pakistanis want to walk out, we will not take it. We have certified that you were here. So it is up to us to then decide our
So there is a solution. There can be a solution, yes, provided the two countries. But let me come to you, Biraj. Let's get away from this, security and all these strategic concerns, and then the environmental damage which it is causing. Absolutely. And all these issues, these are also big issues. Yes. Mr. Verma was talking about meeting somebody, but these are serious issues, yes, which can have long-term implications, yes, which a lot of people admit that they're going to be long-term.
Look, I think some of the issues relating to the melting of the glacier really have nothing to do with the military presence from either side, because after all, in the larger scheme of things, global warming is something that to which the carbon footprint of the army there is a very, very tiny proportion. But I just want to come back to what I was saying. Our defense expenditure, if you look as a share of our GDP, right, is one of the highest in the world. Right. We are ahead. India has today become the world's largest arms importer. It's in terms of, if you look at
India is the largest arms importer
because
in the
it
world.
makes nothing. Because you have DRDO, you have Babu sitting, they make nothing.
That is not the issue. But the point is the fact is that if you look at our percentage of GDP, yes, that even Pakistan spends
5.5
on education, on healthcare, which Bangladesh spends, it's higher than India. So I have no quarrels with the 2,000 crores that we are spending in Siachen, and least so with the army, because I began by saying that I have the highest respect. The army in India is under civilian control. It's not just a question of that. But do we really want to go the way of the US, where a military-industrial complex is going to decide on whether these are serious societal issues.
US is 800 billion, has phenomenal amount of industries, it sells all over the world, makes a lot of money. Pakistan spends 5.5% on defense budget.
I think
we are on a larger issue.
We are just spending 1.84, unfortunately.
We are on a larger issue. Let's not, instead of getting into percentage, the larger issue, General Kadyan, is, as we go along, as our problems increase, as our populations increase, how do we spend our limited resources? This is the question.
By governing.
And one of the things which a lot of people talk about is that defense expenditure needs to be reduced so that it can be shifted to other the social sector and improving the human indicators.
Girish,
But with this kind of attitude or the lack of trust between these two countries, that doesn't seem to be happening.
There are 2 points. First of all, if we are suffering in various fields in the society, it is not because the money is going into the defense. You make defense budget zero, after 5 years we will still be in the same situation. That is part of our poor governance. Number 2, the trust deficit is based on historical examples. We have been betrayed again and again. Whenever Pakistan is in a weaker position, that happened in 72, we were holding 97,000 prisoners, they could have signed on a dotted line. Our country became magnanimous and we handed over the prisoners. They are again a weaker position today. Well, there should be a solution to all these problems, but Siachen should not be taken out of context and just solve that and let the others carry on.
No, to start with, anyway.
To
start with, Prasanna, last words to you. To start with,
the last words to me. I want to give you a solution.
Okay, but
I'll give you a solution.
30 seconds each.
I'll give you a solution.
Last words. If can India and Pakistan sit together on a table, start with Siachen, and then continue to other things and try to find a solution and make so that both countries can reduce their.
Both countries can sit together and discuss all the issues, but it does not have to start with Siachen because Siachen does not affect anybody else.
Right.
See, Siachen affects only a very few people who are there and who are doing a very professional job, and I respect the other side also there.
Okay.
The Pakistani soldier also.
Mr. Verma,
Whereas
quickly.
Kashmir
No,
and
I just
others,
want to say one thing. I said you should have a referendum because I think a lot of people feel that armed forces.
Referendum on
no,
what?
Just armed forces, Jabardasti, they want to take away the resources of this country. They are dying. So you should send from 3 chiefs downward to every Jawan home for 90 days. Then
what is this referendum you're talking about?
1 minute.
We have completely run out of time, Mr. Verma.
Then what is the scenario you see? You send the army home. You say you can't afford it, you don't need it, and you don't require it.
Okay.
Then what happens is that 15
No, we are
days
completely-
Kashmir goes, Siachen goes,
Okay.
Northeast completely goes.
And we have come to the end of the discussion. It is evident that this is something which cannot be resolved so easily. Siachen, what the Pakistani army chief suggested is something very, very tricky, and it is very evident from the guests in the panel here that it will take some trust, a high level of trust for it to work. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to all my guests, Lt.Gen.Raj Kadyan, Mr. Bharat Verma, Prasannan and Biraj Patnaik. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on The Big Picture.